Hi everybody! Today we're going to learn about what it takes to be able to read and use a map. So let's think. What are a couple things we probably need to know to be able to read a map? I mean, do we always just see exactly what's supposed to be there? No, we don't. So we need a legend, which tells us what each symbol on a map means. So you might see a little squiggly bush to be a tree, or a curvy line with little dots that might be a road. And that helps you make sense of the little symbols you see on the map. And then of course we have our cardinal directions. So what are cardinal directions? Cardinal directions are our north, east, south, and west. And so there are a few different ways we can remember those directions. So we always know that north is pointing up towards the North Pole, okay? And then when we're looking at a compass or a map, it goes.
We see that the north is on top, the east is to the right, the south is on bottom, and the west is to the left.
And when we're looking at a compass or a map, we'll notice that the north is usually at the top.
You might have noticed that the compass looks kind of like an analog clock, and that's actually pretty true. So with this analog clock, we can think about the compass and the different cardinal directions, such as north, east, south, and west, by using the little hands on the clock. So when the hand is pointing towards the 12 at the very top, that's for north. When it's pointing to the 3, which is to the right, that is for east. When it's pointing for the 6 at the bottom, that's for south. And when it's pointing to the 9 on the left, that's for west. So that's a good way to help you remember which way is which when using cardinal directions.
So that's one way we can remember our north, south, east, and west. Another good way to remember is using this phrase: never eat soggy waffles. So let's break that down. Never is talking about north. Eat, you got it, east. Soggy, south. And then waffles is for west. That's another good way to remember. And we're going to think about one more way to remember our cardinal directions. Okay. So another way to think about it is using your body to act out north, south, east, and west. So for north, we can use our nose, which also begins with an N, and point it up towards the sky, because north is pointing towards the North Pole, which is up. So south, we can look down at our shoes. Okay. S is for south and shoes, so you can kind of stomp them when you think of south, because south is below, and below you are your shoes on the ground. So stomp with me for south. Now for east, you can take your elbow here and point it towards the side to go for east. So elbow, east. Both start with an E. So east, east. Okay. All right, and now finally we have west. Okay, and west we can use our wrist. Wrist and west both start with a W, even though wrist is kind of a tricky word because the W actually is silent and you just hear the R, which is an R sound. So that can be a little tricky, but just think wrist starts with W, which also is what west starts with. So you can turn your wrist to the west, okay? Now that we have a few different ways to remember our cardinal directions, let's put them into practice along with our skills using legends. Follow me.
Let's look at this map of a park. So we see the elements we should see in a map, which are the key, which is another word for legend, on the right, and then we see west and south and east, and you should see north, but it's out of the camera view. So we've got our compass. So let's practice using our cardinal directions. Here are the swing sets. Okay. And here is a sandbox. Okay. So the swing sets are blank to the sandbox. North, east, south, or west? Pause to think. Now that you've done some thinking, you should know the swing sets are south of the sandbox. Now let's look at this bench. Okay. The bench is blank to this duck pond. Pause a minute to think about it. Okay, now this one can be a little tricky, but the bench really should be to the east of the duck pond. All right, now we have the seesaw, which is to the blank of the duck pond. Okay, think about it. North, south, east, or west? The seesaw is actually north of the duck pond. Very good. So here is why it's so important to use cardinal directions. Now we're going to take a look at a different kind of map. Now here we have a community map. So using the key, we can tell that here, way down here, is a farm. Okay. And we're going to think about where it is in relation to the police station. So let's go over to the police station. Over a little bit. Sorry, it's a little hard to navigate sometimes. Okay, so where is it? It's to the east of the police station. Good. Now, thanks to our legend, we know this pencil is actually a school. Okay, and we wouldn't know that without this legend. All right, and we're going to think, where is this pencil in relation to this tree? The pencil is actually to the west of the tree. We're going to use Google Earth to be able to see your school, Wilkesboro Elementary School. Wow, look how cool. But how can we tell for sure it's your school? Well, let's zoom in a little further. By using Street View, we're able to see Wilkesboro Elementary School spelled out on the side of the building. So you know for sure that it's your school. How cool is that? Alright, so using this overview of what we see on Google Earth, I'm going to make a map and we're going to try to interpret it using our cardinal directions and legend. So let's get started. So first, let's take a look at our legend so we know what all our symbols mean. So here are our sentences. For the first 4 sentences, we're going to want to fill in the blank with one of our 4 cardinal directions, okay? So let's look at this first one. The school buses are blank of the track. Let's go back to our map. Alright, so here are our school buses, which we know because here's the symbol for school buses in the legend, okay? Now here's our track, which we also know because, that's the symbol for track in our legend. So would you say that the school buses are north? Not really. Let's look. Is it closer to the N, the E, the S, or the W? school buses are closest to the E, which means they are east of the track. All right, so we will fill in east. All right, now the second sentence. The little playground is blank of the school. Well, let's see. The little playground, we can tell is right here on the legend. And then the school are both of these buildings. So let's look. Is the little playground above, below, to the right, or to the left of the schools? Pause for a minute to think. Okay, now that you've had some time to consider, we can actually tell that the little playground is south of the school. See, there's the S for south. South. All right, so we'll put south. All right. The road is blank of the parking lot. Here's the road, which we know from our legend. Okay, and here's our parking lot. So let's see. And there, since the road is both above the parking lot and kind of to the right of the parking lot, you can have two answers, north and east, or northeast. But if you can just choose one answer, it's probably best to go with north, because here's the parking lot and here's the road, north. So we'll fill in north. Finally, the big playground is blank of the school. And we're talking about the main school building. So let's look at the main school building right here. Okay. And then the big playground. So the big playground is to the left. And what symbol is that closest to? That's right, west. So we'll put it's west of the school. So for our final question, we want to know, what does a legend tell us? So we've used the legend throughout this whole practice. And let's look back at the legend. What can we find out from the legend? Take a moment to pause. Now that you've had some time to think, you probably remember that the legend tells us what each of our symbols mean. Because if we just looked at this without the legend, we wouldn't know what we were seeing. We wouldn't know what this big block was. We wouldn't know what this little circle is, or these little squiggly marks. The legend is really important in a map. All right?
All right. So now that we learned about the map of our school, which is pretty cool, we're going to put our map making skills into practice in a different way. And you're going to get to make your very own map. So you've got two choices. The first choice is to pick a room in your house or a place around where you live to map out. Okay? The second choice is to map out a made-up land. So a land of make-believe in your head. You can make up your own kingdom, whatever you'd like. But in whatever you decide to do, it's important that we see both a legend, which tells us what each of the little symbols on your map means. Okay? And then, of course, north, east, south, and west. Okay? So you'll want to label your map with that and put a compass on the side so you can see. Okay? And then you want to write a few sentences using those cardinal directions. So let's say I made a map of, maybe my room, okay? And say there's a chair right here, and there's a desk right here. The chair, I could say, the chair is east of the desk, okay? So you want to at least have 4 different sentences that use each of the 4 cardinal directions, okay? Okay, have fun!